In the news tonight, a powerful blast caused by a suicide bomber hits a heavily policed district of the Syrian capital with at least 7 killed. Iraqi special forces stormed the Mosul University complex and pushed Daesh further back to reach another bridge across the Tigris River. And Turkey's parliament approved key measures allowing the president to be a member of a political party and issue decrees. Good evening and welcome to the news at 10. Catholic churches in the kingdom marked Epiphany in a ceremony at the baptism site that was attended by some 5,000 Christian worshippers. The baptism site, also known as Bethany beyond Jordan or Al-Maghtas, is located on the east bank of the River Jordan, 9 kilometers north of the Dead Sea. The baptism site was discovered in the late 90s by expert heeding St. John's Gospel, which described the place 3 times as being beyond the Jordan rather than on the west bank. It has become an important Holy Land pilgrimage site since extensive excavations in the mid-1990s have unearthed ruins of churches, baptismal pools and caves. Christian denominations have built new churches for modern pilgrims nearby. Pope John Paul II visited the site in 2000 and Pope Benedict XVI in 2009. Palestinian Liberation Organization Secretary General Saeb Erekat called for a Moscow meeting between Palestinian Authority, President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Erekat said he hoped the two leaders would join Russian President Vladimir Putin in Russia for peace talks and direct negotiations. Erekat made the comments during a meeting with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Moscow. Lavrov stressed the importance of direct talks between the two sides and said Palestinian unity was a priority. Palestinian political parties are set to hold an informal meeting in Moscow next week for negotiations in a bid to agree on a single platform. Some 70 countries and organizations are due in Paris for a meeting on Sunday for Middle East peace talks that hopes to breathe new life into the peace process. A powerful blast caused by a suicide bomber hit a heavily policed district of the Syrian capital with at least 7 killed. A police source said a suicide bomber blew himself in the Kafr Sousa neighborhood, where some of the Syrians' main security installations are located. The British-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the death toll was expected to rise, with several of the wounded in a critical condition. Here's more.
The aftermath of a suicide bomb attack in Damascus, exploding in a heavily policed district of the Syrian capital on Thursday. At least 7 dead, according to state television. A police source says the attacker blew himself up in an area with some of Syria's main security installations. Insurgents fighting to topple President Bashar al-Assad say many recruits from Iranian-backed militias fighting alongside the army live in the area. Meanwhile, the Syrian army says Israel is firing rockets at a major military airbase outside Damascus, warning Israel of repercussions for what it called a flagrant attack. Syrian state television quoted the army as saying several rockets were fired from an area near the Sea of Galilee in northern Israel. They landed in the compound of the airbase used by Assad's elite Republican guards. The Syrian army threatening to amputate the arms of the perpetrators. Israel neither confirms nor denies involvement. It has targeted positions of Lebanon's powerful Hezbollah group inside Syria in the past. The Iranian-backed group's heavily involved in fighting alongside the government's army. Israeli defense officials are concerned that Hezbollah's experience in the Syrian civil war has strengthened it.
Iraqi special forces stormed the Mosul University complex in the city's northeast and pushed Daesh further back to reach another bridge across the Tigris River. The terrorists were fighting back at the university, which they had seized when they took over the city in 2014. Iraqi forces have recaptured most districts in eastern Mosul in nearly 3 months of a US-backed offensive, which accelerated at the turn of the year with new tactics and better coordination. The Iraqi forces also recaptured the southern district of Sumar after several days of battles against Daesh. Soldiers were able to capture weapons and missiles from terrorists who fled the area. They also detonated a car bomb left behind by the group. In a separate advanced elite counter-terrorism service units reached the second bridge, also called Freedom Bridge, one of 5 across the Tigris. Iraqi forces have now reached Mosul's 2 southernmost bridges, having battled their way to the 4th bridge several days ago. Turkish warplanes pounded 10 Daesh targets in Sulfaniya and Bazar towns in northern Syria, killing 41 terrorists. The airstrikes were launched as the Syrian rebels, backed by Turkish troops and firepower, besieged Daesh-controlled Al-Bab as part of the 4-month-old Euphrates Shield operation to push the terrorists and a Kurdish militia away from Turkish border. The Turkish army said the airstrikes targeted buildings used by fighters of the terrorist group as well as armed vehicles. Turkish parliament has approved key measures allowing the president to be a member of political party and issue decrees, part of a constitutional reform. The ruling AK party, backed by the nationalist MHP, is pushing through legislation that President Tayyip Erdogan says will bring strong executive leadership needed to prevent a return to the fragile coalition government of the past. We get more in this report.
Turkey a step closer Friday to what President Tayyip Erdogan called strong leadership. Parliament approving reforms overnight that concentrate more power in his hands, allowing the president to issue decrees and be the member of a political party. It's the ruling AK party, which he founded, that's pushing them through. But opposition parties fear the changes will fuel authoritarianism. Lawmakers came to blows on Wednesday night when tempers boiled over during a debate on the bill. The AK party threatening fresh elections if the bill wasn't passed, the main opposition CHP responding with, "Bring it on." Erdogan says an early poll is not desirable but also not unthinkable. His battle isn't over yet. The changes still need to be passed in 2 more rounds of voting, then the constitutional package will be put to referendum. He says a fully executive presidency is what Turkey needs to navigate through its various crises. The Turkish lira taking its biggest weekly fall on Friday since the aftermath of a failed coup last July. The president's advisor saying so-called puppets had manipulated foreign markets and vowing to root them out. Erdogan himself calling on Turks to convert their foreign currency to Turkish lira. It's now the worst performing currency in the world.
Madame Tussauds showcased waxworks of Bollywood megastar Amitabh Bachchan alongside Lady Gaga and Mary Tussauds to generate buzz ahead of their entry into celebrity Mad New Delhi later this year. Bachchan, 74, is one of the Indian cinema's most revered and influential actors and has been a mainstay on screens for 5 decades. The wax statues were unveiled by Merlin Entertainments, the operator of the iconic entertainment attraction. The museum is set to be open in June. Parts of England were preparing for severe flooding after strong winds, heavy snow and rain hit the country overnight, cancelling flights, closing schools and causing disruption to commuters. Around 100 flood warnings are in place across Britain, with 11 at a severe level, meaning that there is a threat to life. Authorities fear a surge in water levels could flood some eastern coastal areas. Snow and strong winds were also expected to continue across the north, east and west of England. Some of the world's top cyclists were preparing in Adelaide, Australia, ahead of the Tour Down Under. World champion Peter Sagan and Simon Gerrans were in attendance, checking some of the roads they'll be facing when the race starts on next Tuesday. 2-time world champion Sagan, now riding for the German team, was positive about the upcoming competition. The two down under starts with a hilly first stage from Onlili to Lindoch on the 17th before eventually finishing with a flat stage on January 22nd.
Put your hands together.
The Australian Open tennis draw was announced with defending champion Novak Djokovic facing Fernando Verdasco in a mouth-watering first-round match. Spaniard Verdasco knocked compatriot Rafael Nadal out in the opening round last year at Melbourne Park and had match points against Djokovic in their recent clash at the Qatar Open. World number one Andy Murray will face Ukraine's Ilya Marchenko in his opener as the Briton searches for an elusive maiden title at Melbourne Park after 5 trips to the final.
Such a great quality tennis during Australian Open over the years.
And finally, cold and partly cloudy conditions continue across the kingdom for the rest of tonight with light variable winds. Frost formation is also expected after midnight in the hilly areas, Badia and eastern plains. Tomorrow, unstable weather conditions affect the kingdom, bringing lower temperatures and rain in most parts of the kingdom, with southeasterly moderate to brisk winds. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect fair conditions tomorrow with northerly moderate winds and calm seas. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And before we end the news, here are the main points once again. A powerful blast caused by a suicide bomber hits a heavily policed district of the Syrian capital with at least 7 killed. Iraqi special forces stormed the Mosul University complex and pushed Daesh further back to reach another bridge across the Tigris River. And Turkish parliament approved key measures allowing the president to be a member of a political party and issue decrees. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Lou Balqaro. Thank you for joining us.